This is Big D, oldschoolstereo.com. Today we're going to do a shootout between the Phoenix Gold MS-275 and the Rockford Fosgate Punch 150 HD. Both of these amps are from the approximate same time frame in the early 90s. The Punch 150 HD was approximately 1991 to 1992, and the Phoenix Gold MS-275 actually was, it debuted around 92. There was an MS-250 that was introduced in 91, which preceded this amplifier, so I think they just renamed the 250 the 275 because the 250 was so underrated. But anyway, here's the two amps. As you can see, they're very similar in size. Colors are different. Obviously, the Rockford is the classic black, whereas the Phoenix Gold, this is a gray color. You'll notice that most of the Phoenix Gold amps are a white color in the MS series. This is an early one, so they started off gray. Okay, I've turned the amps to the side here, so I'm going to show you a little bit of the difference between the connections on both. We'll first start off with the Rockford. As you can see, we have RCA input jacks, we have bass and treble knobs, and then we have this plug, which is for a 6-pin Molex type connector. So the speaker wires and the remote turn-on wire actually came off of a Molex connector and wiring harness. And Phoenix Gold was one of the first, if not the first, amplifier models to incorporate these terminal strips. As you can see, gold plated everything here. There's a speaker outputs, there's a few switches for the ground, for the output, bass, gain, RCA input, master slave if you want to connect two together. And they're the real nice connections for the for your plus 12, minus 12, and your remote turn on. So yeah, Phoenix Gold was always known for their cables, RCAs, power cables, and such. So when they hit the market with their amplifiers, they really stepped it up and really got everybody else kind of on defense. So. And the real beauty of the Phoenix Gold amp is the inside, and I will show you that. I'll show you the guts here shortly. But first I wanted to talk about the price. Both of these amplifiers back in the approximately 1992, the Punch 150 retailed for $515, and the Phoenix Gold MS-275 retailed for $479. Now, I used a website that actually converts money from older times to newer times, or it's called the time value of money. So it takes the consumer price index and converts it. So I did that for you. And just as a comparison to 2010 prices, the $515 that you would have paid in 1992 for the Punch 150 actually equates to $800 today. And the Phoenix Gold $479 back in 1992 actually equates to $744. So as you can tell, these amplifiers were not cheap amplifiers. They were actually very expensive and very difficult for the average person to afford. I know that I couldn't. So anyway, that's why I have them today. Okay, I've taken the bottom plate off of both amplifiers here. I'm going to show you kind of the guts of both, and I'll start over here with the Rockford. As you can see, it's just kind of no frills. There's no internal wiring. The HD hybrid design meant that everything was surface mounted. There was no more internal wiring needed. That was a step forward for Rockford. And we'll move over here to the Phoenix Gold. And to my knowledge, and I may be incorrect, and somebody surely will correct me if I'm not right, but I believe they were the first to use the gold-plated circuit boards, 24-karat gold-plated circuit boards. And as you can see, it's just gorgeous. They got huge 8-gauge wiring internally for the speakers, which is just enormous. and got their famous connectors here, which are beautiful. And the internal of this thing is just a knockout. And what people generally did back in the early 90s is they would mount these kind of upside down, and they had plexiglass shield that they would put over the bottom so that you could show off your amp. And as you can see, that's a good idea, because these are really pretty, and that's a great way to show off the internals of your amp. But as I'm showing you this, I wanted to talk a little bit about the power ratings. And the reason I'm going to shoot out these two amps and see which one is the king, because both of these amps put out about the same power. They're rated at 75 watts times 2. They're both rated to 2 ohms stereo, 4 ohms mono. However, both are pretty well known that they can actually go to 1 ohm stereo or 2 ohms mono. And the Phoenix Gold has a switch in here right there to go from the red to the yellow if you're going to do the real low impedance like the 1 ohm loads. And the Rockford, as with most of the Rockford amps, will just kind of handle it. Although they're not designed for it, and Rockford will tell you, not to do it, you'll mess things up. That's understandable. They're not really designed for it, but they can handle it because they were overbuilt. So there you have the guts of the Phoenix Gold MS-275 and the Rockford Fosgate Punch 150 HD. Alright, so enough talking about these amplifiers. Let's see what they're going to actually do. Now, plans are to slap both of these on the bench with some resistors and see what kind of actual output power they can do at various ohm loads. 4 ohm stereo, 2 ohm stereo, 4 ohms bridge mono, maybe even 2 ohms bridge mono if I feel like doing that today. And maybe I'll also have some time to hook it up to a subwoofer, hook each one individually to a subwoofer and try it out and see how well each of these amps controls the sub. So let's move to the test bench.